On the surface, it appeared to be just another routine taxi ride. Two brothers, an evening drive, Derby registration plates on the motorway. No sirens, no flashing lights. Just bags in the boot and silence filling the front seats. He maintained a steady speed, showed no signs of nervousness. To any observer, this was simply a taxi making its way through Derby. But that vehicle wasn't merely transportation, it was a component of something much larger. A carefully constructed network threading through council estates, storage units, and midnight exchanges in deserted car parks. An operation funneling high-purity cocaine from Dubai into cities throughout Britain. There were no territorial battles, no flashy music videos, just token identifiers, encrypted mobile devices, and patterns so polished they appeared legitimate. For 48 days, everything functioned flawlessly, until a single message, typed with confidence and transmitted in seconds, became the fracture that brought it all down. This is the account of how they constructed a £165 million narcotics empire concealed behind taxi operations, and how the very system they relied upon to remain invisible ultimately revealed everything. Palit Mahunga didn't fit the criminal profile. No expensive timepiece, no overseas getaways, no apparent source of income whatsoever. He resided in a modest terraced house in Willowcroft, Derby Abbey, the sort of property you'd pass without a second glance. Yet inside that dwelling, behind an ordinary white door, he was coordinating one of Britain's most profitable drug operations in recent history. Mahunga was 45 years old. He didn't pursue glamour or recognition. His focus was weight and quantity. He wasn't dealing in small amounts. He was bringing in bulk shipments, high-grade cocaine sourced directly from Dubai. He placed orders in kilograms, distributed them rapidly, and kept his identity distant from street-level commotion. This wasn't a solo venture. He built an entire framework beneath his position. Transporters, accountants, and purchasers, all functioning based on assigned duties, not personal fame. There were no intimidation tactics, no physical force, only operational efficiency. He operated like a logistics director, coordinating transactions, monitoring transportation, supervising finances, all through encrypted technology, all beyond official records. Yet it was precisely that quiet approach, that conviction of his own invisibility, that enabled him to function for such an extended period. Still, from that unassuming Derby residence, over £165 million worth of cocaine flowed through his network in barely more than 12 months. This wasn't a street gang, it was a commercial enterprise, and Mahunga sat at the apex, undetected, until the infrastructure supporting him began to fracture. Once the narcotics reached British territory, someone had to transport them, not in small quantities, but in substantial volume. That responsibility belonged to Shaswant Kajula, the organization's logistics coordinator. He was 41, operating from Coventry, and didn't require weapons to maintain order. He depended on routes, established procedures, and absolute discipline. Kajula didn't merely arrange deliveries, he engineered the framework that rendered them undetectable. Collections in Luton, handovers in Derby, cash returns via backstreets, petrol stations, parking areas. Everything scheduled, everything practiced. He made it function like a distribution network. Couriers followed instructions, distances were measured. No dangerous improvisation. Narcotics moved between cities without attracting attention. Just bags transferred through cabs, taxis, or rental vehicles. Sometimes delivered to buyers who barely understood who orchestrated it. When a handoff encountered problems, Kajula didn't lose composure. He redirected, reassigned personnel, and maintained the operation's momentum. He also served as the liaison for higher-ranking members. When organization members traveled to Dubai to connect with suppliers, Kajula facilitated it. He managed the travel arrangements, flights, accommodations, and demanding schedules. This wasn't a back-alley operation. It was constructed like a commercial logistics firm, one that never ceased operations, never experienced delays. At one stage, They were moving such enormous quantities that law enforcement calculated £400,000 was being generated daily, and not a single kilogram ever remained stationary too long. Kajula ensured that. His couriers weren't muscle, they weren't gangsters. They were trained assets, programmed to deliver and vanish. And as long as he maintained cleanliness, the system remained invisible, until it didn't anymore. While Kajula kept the narcotics flowing, Manraj Johal monitored the finances. Operating from Luton, 32 years old and deliberately low profile, Johal never handled the product. His role was tracking every pound it generated. He maintained records like a financial controller. Comprehensive spreadsheets documented every transaction, every expenditure, every outstanding balance. Not in code, in clear figures. He wasn't concealing their earnings, he was administering them. When cash returned from purchasers, it wasn't simply counted, it was categorized. Bundles received token identifiers, markers connecting each stack of currency to a specific deal. If money disappeared, they'd know exactly who owed it and the precise amount. It was criminality structured like corporate accounting. Johal's encrypted device didn't just link him to the crew, it connected him directly to Dubai-based suppliers. He provided regular updates, reporting exact quantities moved and profit percentages achieved. There were no approximations, no estimates, just precise figures and confidence built through consistency. He wasn't working alone. His cousin, Nimrat Bajia, assisted with counting and transporting the cash. When officers raided a London flat, they discovered him mid-operation, surrounded by £530,000, stacked, organized, partially tallied. He was 26 years old, yet already handling more currency than most people encounter in their entire lives. Together, they tracked tens of millions without drawing notice. They didn't require fabricated invoices or offshore banking, just discipline and phones they believed were secure. But every spreadsheet entry, every token identifier, every payment recorded was another piece of evidence they didn't realize they were creating. They didn't label them safe houses, they called them offices. One in Derby, one in Luton, 2 locations hidden in plain view. But these weren't merely hiding spots, they were command centers. In Derby, operations were managed by Manveer Singh, also known as Manvac. He didn't handle currency, didn't touch narcotics. He kept the entire operation running smoothly. Money arrived from across the nation, separated into bundles, recorded with token numbers, and prepared for the next courier. His responsibility was keeping it moving, clean and swift. The officers operated like round-the-clock processing facilities. Cocaine in, money out. One team managed collections, another team bundled cash. Each position had a task. Each task had a protocol. They didn't stockpile drugs in piles or loose currency in bags. They maintained structure. Apartments and commercial units were converted into high-capacity banking rooms. At one point, police estimated between £1 million and £2 million could be sitting in a single unit, simply awaiting redistribution. These weren't chaotic gang houses, they were controlled environments. Phones were utilized only when necessary. Names weren't mentioned. Everything came down to numbers, product weights, token codes, and delivery schedules. Even when police were already monitoring them, the officers never decelerated. For 408 days, the operation continued without missing a beat. Until the breach, until the evidence materialized. Not through a raid, but through the very phones they believed were protecting them. While the office staff maintained internal operations, a different category of players kept external demand elevated. This wasn't a street corner enterprise. The organization didn't deal in small packages or wraps. They sold in kilograms, and their customers operated similarly. These were wholesale purchasers, trusted enough to receive serious quantities and wealthy enough to pay up front. Michael Kareem was among the most active. Based in Nottingham, he wasn't just purchasing for personal use, he was supplying a regional network. Throughout the conspiracy period, police estimate he acquired at least 9 kilograms. And the money didn't go under mattresses. It was spent conspicuously. He rented 46 luxury vehicles, BMWs, Mercedes, Range Rovers, spent £91,000 on 2 luxury apartments, flew to Vegas, attended football matches across Europe. The remainder went on designer merchandise, Harvey Nichols, flannels, and whatever caught his attention. Investigators later determined he'd profited by over £1 million, though they could only recover a fraction. Other buyers maintained lower profiles. Joseph Davidson, Kelly Williamson, Mohammed Shafi, Narinder Palahot, each placed kilogram-level orders and pushed the product further down the distribution chain. They didn't operate in chaos. They worked regionally. And while they didn't carry titles, each played a part in keeping the machine supplied. None of them understood precisely how the supply pipeline functioned, only that it did. On schedule, correct weight, no interruptions. And for over a year, that was sufficient. But getting kilograms in and cash out required more than just buyers. It demanded movement, rapid, discreet, and unnoticed. That's where the Iqbal brothers entered the picture. Basharat and Bararisk Iqbal weren't runners in the conventional sense. They were taxi drivers, legitimate ones, licensed and locally recognized in Derby. The kind of men you'd flag down without hesitation. Behind the meter, however, they were couriers for a nationwide operation. Basharat, the elder brother, transported both narcotics and currency. While the couriers shuttled cash and cocaine across the country, something else was moving in the background, silently and without warning. The organization conducted everything through EncroChat. They believed it was impenetrable, so they communicated freely. They shared addresses, drop locations, quantities moved, even personal photographs. One message displayed the interior of a house. Police matched the curtains to a property in Derby. Another included a dog in the corner of the frame, the same dog officers discovered during a subsequent raid. They didn't hide behind codes or aliases. They conversed openly, daily, trusting the network completely. One member even tracked profits down to the penny in a spreadsheet, sent directly through the phone they believed was secure. What they didn't know was that the system had already been compromised. European law enforcement had penetrated EncroChat and was feeding the intelligence to UK investigators. Every message was being duplicated, every movement logged. For weeks, they operated as if nothing had changed, but everything had. And by the time they discovered the truth, it was too late to shut down. By the time police executed their operation, the map was already complete. Nothing was overlooked. Not the words, not the exchanges, not the faces behind them. In April 2020, surveillance teams observed as he departed a residential address in Derby, holdall in hand. He walked calmly to a vehicle. No rush, no lookout, just a short drive planned across town. Inside the bag were 7 kilograms of cocaine, cleanly packaged, high purity. What he didn't realize was that officers were already closing in. He was stopped quietly. No pursuit, no confrontation. Just a controlled arrest on a side road outside the city. The narcotics were seized. The packaging matched what had already been seen in EncroChat photographs. The weight confirmed it. The handoff timing aligned with a message recovered just hours earlier. It wasn't merely a drug bust, it was confirmation. Everything they'd been reading on those phones, the codes, the drops, the scale, was real. From that point forward, everything accelerated. Search warrants were authorized, entry teams briefed. Targets weren't just the leadership, they were couriers, buyers, cash handlers, coordinators, everyone with a role, everyone boxed in. In London, officers raided a flat and walked into a scene mid-count. £530,000 in cash, bundled and tagged, still being sorted. Elsewhere, homes were hit with quiet precision. One property yielded kilograms of cocaine. Another held stacks of cash in £40,000 bundles. This wasn't chaos, it was closure, executed step by step, address by address. From Derby to Luton, Coventry to Nottingham, the structure collapsed not with noise, but with timing. And when it concluded, the network wasn't just damaged, it was dismantled from end to end. The courtroom was packed. In January 2022, at Derby Crown Court, prosecutors began presenting the full scope of the case, one of the largest drug conspiracies ever witnessed in the region. It had required 4 separate trials to reach this point. Over 408 days, the organization had imported and distributed cocaine valued at more than £165 million, a network extending from Derby to Dubai. Prosecutor Gareth Wheatman characterized it as an industrial-scale operation, wholesale Class A narcotics on a national level. He informed the court that just between March 16th and April 30th, 2020, the organization moved over £18.6 million, averaging more than £400,000 daily. The evidence came straight from the organization's own devices. No need for surveillance or informants. The organization had documented their own downfall. Judge Jonathan Bennett told the court this was no chaotic street crew. It was a structured criminal enterprise, and the sentences would reflect the scale and discipline of the network they constructed. Then came the sentencing. Palit Mahunga, 45, received the longest sentence, 18 years and 3 months. The court heard he controlled the entire network. He arranged multi-kilogram cocaine imports from Dubai and managed the operation through encrypted phones with complete authority. Shazwant Kajula, 41, was jailed for 15 years and 3 months for leading the logistics side. Manraj Johal, 32, was handed 15 years and 8 months. As the network's accountant, he maintained spreadsheets tracking sales, profit margins, and outstanding debts. He also reported financial figures back to Dubai-based contacts. Manveer Singh, 33, received 13 years for managing the Derby office where cash was bundled. His role was central to cash flow. Michael Kareem, 36, was jailed for 10 years. He acted as a major wholesale buyer, sourcing at least 9 kilograms of cocaine. Joseph Davidson, 41, was sentenced to 10 years and 2 months. He was involved in both cocaine and heroin supply lines, acting as a distributor within the network. Mohammed Shafi, 38, received 12 years. He played a dual role as a cocaine courier and was also convicted in relation to an illegal firearm discovered during the investigation. Nathaniel Kaimor, 39, was jailed for 7 years and 5 months. He helped launder money and move cocaine between locations, playing a consistent operational role within the structure. Ranjit Sandhu, 49, was sentenced to 6 years and 10 months. He worked as a courier, transporting large volumes across the Midlands and into the north using methods designed to avoid detection. Kelly Williamson, 57, received 5 years and 3 months. The court heard he was a trusted buyer in Nottinghamshire, purchasing kilograms directly from the network and reselling downstream. Nimrat Bajir, 26, was jailed for 7 years and 1 month. He was caught mid-count in a London flat, surrounded by over £530,000 in cash, much of it already bundled and tagged, using the network's internal code system. Basharat Iqbal, 46, received 7 years and 9 months. Police found 3 kilograms of cocaine and £20,000 in cash at his Derby address. He used his position as a taxi driver to courier both drugs and money across the country. Bear Risk Iqbal, 44, was sentenced to 4 years and 9 months. He assisted his brother in laundering large sums, often by posing as a legitimate cabbie, running regular routes while carrying criminal proceeds. John Castledine, 63, was jailed for 7 years and 3 months. Despite suffering from learning difficulties, he played a trusted role in cash handling, receiving, counting, and forwarding drug money to others in the chain. Adil Sadi, 35, was given 4 years and 7 months. He took over from Castledine in the money counting role, ensuring funds were processed accurately and ready for redistribution. Jermaine Calenderer, 44, received 3 years. He was caught moving a kilogram of heroin between Luton and Derby. The court heard he had no prior drug history, but had been recruited for transport. Shai Connell, 38, was jailed for 7 years and 9 months. He ran a courier business that helped mask the heroin supply chain between Derby and Luton, allowing drugs to pass as legitimate deliveries. Marvin Johnson, 41, was sentenced to 11 years and 6 months. He was part of the heroin wing of the operation, working to expand the network's supply line beyond cocaine. In total, 18 people were convicted. Together, they were sentenced to 167 years in prison, a complete collapse of the hierarchy they believed couldn't be touched. What do you make of this case? Did the sentences fit the scale of the operation, or should they have gone further? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more real UK crime stories like this, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. There's always another case to uncover.